This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
Our guest on today's episode is in a very distinguished class of Arizona athletes. Max Hall, a state champion quarterback from Mesa's Mountain View High School, the winningest quarterback in BYU football history, and he led his hometown Arizona Cardinals back in 2010 to a victory over the defending world champion New Orleans Saints. He achieved the dreams of so many kids playing sports all over the valley, only to have it come crashing down with an arrest for drug possession and shoplifting. Max Hall's story is one that he's finally comfortable telling. He got sober. He returned to coaching high school football here in the Valley and is now trying to help others battling addiction.
Max, first of all, it's great to see you. Before we dive into the story, we're kind of in the lull before the football season starts here. How are you spending your days as you get ready to walk the sidelines here for the high school gridiron?
Man, like June's a big month in high school football in Arizona because there's so much going on. You got all these 7-on-7 tournaments. You got big man challenges. We're still lifting every day. We're practicing. So, I mean, we were grinding through the month of June for sure. And then, we'll get into some of the other stuff that I'm doing, but it's been a busy summer. We were able to take a little vacation for 4th of July, but we go to camp on Monday. Wow. So it's like official football season starts for us on Monday. So we're going up north, Round Valley High School. We'll be up there next week. So it's here, man. Football's about to begin.
Jealous that you get out of the heat. And speaking of lifting, I remember pointing you out to somebody on the sidelines and saying he was he was the quarterback for the Cardinals, and the person said to me, I thought he played linebacker. So it looks like you have been lifting. Are you still lifting as much, or do the day-to-day duties? I mean, I saw you the other probably 2 years ago on the sidelines and was like, golly, I feel like he could be an Olympian.
Well, it's part of my program. I always tell people the gym keeps you sober. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you why I was not this big when I played, especially up top. It's harder to throw a football when you're big and tight, right? So, but this is the deal and I'll hopefully it's okay I jump into this, but when I was arrested, I was skinny. I was sick. I think I was 170 pounds, 775 pounds. I just didn't look right. And obviously I got a pretty nasty mugshot out there. So when I look at that, I say, I want to be opposite of what that guy looks like. I want to completely flip my life. And so being in the gym and being healthy and doing all that is a big part of my day-to-day routine. So yeah, I get those comments all the time. Man, you look like a linebacker. And I'm like, I'm just trying to be opposite of the freaking drug addict I was for a while, like I want a new image. And so, and I've fallen in love with just, working out. Different than what you do in football. I'm not squatting and cleaning and doing all that stuff. It's more beach muscle lifts, but I love it, man. It's part of my deal.
Well, I appreciate your candor, and that's why I want to have you on. You have an event coming up here, and you're very open about telling your story. So as we kind of jump in here, how did you get to the point where you can tell the story openly, and it's for you're an open book for everybody?
I tried to talk about it a little bit, like my first year kind of getting back together, and I still just didn't feel right about it. Like I was still too fresh in the recovery, but I had people reach out and want to do some interviews, and I lacked a ton of self-confidence at the time. I had a ton of anxiety, so it was hard for me to do that. Probably a year after I was out of the facility I was in, I started to really own it. You know what I mean? Like, I said, this is public. Everybody's seen it. Everybody knows. I have to own this and learn from it and use it, right, to bless others. So it was at least a year before I felt comfortable about being open about it, but I was still reserved about some parts of it. I've gotten to the point now where I think it's been 7 years where I'm okay with it enough, and I'll be vulnerable and I'll share some of that stuff because it might help somebody else. And it's not fun talking about it. It's not fun, reliving it, but it's worth it if it can affect somebody else's life. So now I'm an open book, man. I'm just like, it is what it is. It happened. But look at where I was, what happened to me, and what I'm doing now. And I'm confident enough now in what I'm doing and where my life is at that, yeah, I'll share. I'll be open about it because there's not a lot of people that are. And the more people that can stand up and be vulnerable and open about stuff, maybe the less taboo it'll be. Maybe we can get more people standing up and talking about it and get some of these addicts the help that they need. So that's the whole point, right? Is to be open and help others.
Well, and I remember the day the news broke, and I actually had to walk in the Arizona's Family Studio at CBS 5 and report the news. And I remember saying to somebody, "Man, I'm sick to my stomach," because I'd been to a Gilbert game. I'd seen you across the way, and I remember thinking that you were pretty skinny. And I just what really struck me is I don't know that I would have been able to say anything to you at the time, but when someone's going through a moment like that, what can people say to them?
Yeah, that is a great question, because most people, just like you in that situation, didn't know what to say or how to say it, or even if you should say it, and that can be tough. And a lot of times somebody in the middle of their addiction, they're hard to talk to, but it's worth starting the conversation. So if you were to pull that individual aside and say, "Hey man, how are you doing? Are you struggling? What can I do to help?" Not necessarily, "What are you doing, man? Are you doing this? Are you doing that?" Just be like, "Hey, are you okay? Can you get some help? What's going on with you?" And see if you can get them to open up. But you got to come, like, especially if you're close to the person, you got to leave emotions aside and let the person know that you love them, you're there for them. And then it's kind of up to them if they want to receive the help or not, but at least you've done your part. You know what I mean? And they know there's somebody out there that's willing to help them. So that's the type of conversation that you need to have. But for a guy like me who had an ego and all that, I'm a tough person to approach. So being brave enough to do that is hard. And but just a simple conversation of, "How are you doing? It looks like you might be struggling. Let me help you."
And how were you able to, after the arrest and after the news report and after the mugshot and after going to jail, have that even conversation with yourself? Because I would imagine you're saying you're an addict here. How are you able to break the addiction and get to where you are today?
Well, me being arrested and it being so public was, obviously that sucked, but it was a blessing. And here's why. For 5 years, I kept this secret. There was a few close people around me, my wife and parents on both sides. But I convinced them that I could do it and I was going to get over it. And I didn't want to ruin my reputation, and have that stigma on me. And so I kept it a secret. And when I was arrested, my secret was out. Like, it was public. It was all over the place. And that was tough to go through. It was embarrassing. I was being ridiculed, made fun of. Memes were being made about me. You know what I mean? That's tough to go through. So I kind of had no choice, right? Everybody knew what was going on with me now. So really, I had two choices: lay down or fight. And we have a little saying kind of with what we're doing. You say, we fall, we fight, we overcome. That's the process. And I was definitely on the ground. And, I tell people all the time, when I played football, I felt like I was pretty tough as a quarterback, man. I would stand in the pocket. I would take hits. I'd get up and talk trash to the D lineman. You know what I mean? That's just like, I played fired up. I played mad. I played with passion. For the first time in my life, I got knocked down and I didn't want to get up. I did not want to get up. I just wanted to lay there, dig a grave and let me sit here. And I remember the day it came out and went public was the first time in my life where I thought, is life worth living at this point? Right? I feel like I just lost everything. What do I have to live for? And that's a bad place to be in. And so it was either die or fight, flight or fight, basically what it was for me. And it took me a while, but I finally decided to fight and use the people and the resources around me and humble myself and take counseling. And when I got to the point that I was willing to do whatever it took, no matter what you asked me to do, I was going to do it. That's when my real recovery started. And my life just started changing once I made that decision.
How did playing football help you in doing what it took to get clean and break the addiction?
I really had to, we talk about how football, there's all these life lessons and you learn dedication and teamwork and hard work and, discipline and all this stuff. And I had to take that stuff from football and learn how to apply it to everyday life. And once I once I kind of made that decision, now I'm like, okay, I have to learn how to be relentless in my recovery. I have to learn how to find a team around me and work with them. I got to be disciplined every single day. I got to follow my routine. I got to do the things I'm supposed to do and treat this thing like it was football. You know, in football, there's weights, there's film, there's practice. You're dedicated to it. I gave my whole life to football. Now I got to give it to recovery. And I need to create a new me. Max Hall, the quarterback football player, was gone. And my wife used to say all the time, I just want the old Max back. That's not going to happen. I had to learn how to create Max the coach, Max the mentor, the husband, the father, and leave Max Hall, the quarterback, behind. And that was very hard to do. I couldn't even watch a football game for like 2 years. Like It was that hard for me because, you know, with my injury, I had 2 bad concussions, dislocated shoulder. I thought my NFL career, my football career was over. I had just become the starting quarterback for the Cardinals. Like I was there, I made it, hometown. And then all of a sudden like that, it was just stripped away. I felt like a failure. I felt I was depressed. Now I'm physically hurt. I'm emotionally hurting. Pain pills took it all away. Took it all away. It numbed it all out. And so that's kind of how it started with me. But and those lessons that I learned in football came in big time, but I had to learn how to translate it, you know?
Right. And I mean, you're talking about your playing days and becoming a new guy, but I mean, we're going to pull the film of you getting your helmet knocked off against the Saints and beating the defending world champs in your hometown in the stadium. I know that was a fun one for the Cardinals and going through that season there and thinking, oh man, they've really got something. I think you went up to Seattle. Is that right? And the shoulder just wasn't right. And you could tell when you were throwing the ball, it wasn't where it needed to be. So
the timeline's a little different. That clip that you're talking about, I was knocked out cold on the goal line. I remember Larry Fitzgerald had kind of picked me up and he's like shaking me. He's like, hey, you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. What happened? He's like, don't worry, we scored. So I'm thinking I got in the end zone. I'm like, oh, sweet, I got in. Little did I know I fumbled and the left tackle picked it up in the end zone, right? And I'm just out. The next day, and this was before the NFL concussion protocol. So the doctor checked me out, and of course, I just became the starter. I finally made it. I'm not going to bow out at this point. Looking back, I should have. I should have been like, hey, I'm not right. But I thought I could gut it out. And next week, we went up to Seattle. I'm forgetting plays at the line of scrimmage. I'm a freaking wreck. And I take another hit where I black out again. They play me the next week, and I finally get pulled, even though I actually played really good versus Tampa. But I threw an interception and they pulled me. So now I'm in this deep depression. Like I'm just like, ugh. A couple weeks later, they throw me back in against the Rams, and I took a sack fumble. I reached out to grab the ball, and the Laurinaitis, remember? Dove on my shoulder and dislocated my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I remember going back into the locker room, and I'm tearing up. I'm crying, thinking it's over. And that I was a mess. I was in a bad spot. And I wish there would have been somebody during that time to help me, but I just didn't. And the only way that I could live life was to mask it and numb it out with the pain pills.
Were the pain pills a part of it before the hit on the goal line against the Saints? Did it become progressively more of a part of it? Or how did that process go from you're on top of the world, you're struggling, pain pills, and the rest?
Yeah, there was never really a problem before that. It's when I dislocated my shoulder, I wrote a prescription, 30-day supply of Percocet. I took the whole dang thing in 3 days.
Wow.
And guess what? Now that I'm out, I got to find more. So I finally find some, I call up some people that I know were into that stuff. And then I started getting it off the streets, and off I went. And then the pain pills turned to Oxy, which turned to heroin. And then I'm introduced to cocaine. Like it just took off from there, man. And for 5 years, the only thing I cared about, it's the first thing I thought about when I woke up was getting it and using it. And the last thing I thought about before I went to bed. I still functioned. I felt like I was still good at home and with the kids and all that. But inside, I was struggling big time. I was in a dark place. And, there's a saying that addiction takes your soul. And it took my soul. I was in a dark, dark place. And, it also breaks the hearts of everybody that's around you. You lose relationships, and you lie, you manipulate, and you turn into a person that you never thought that you would be. And that's where I was. until I was arrested. And then I'm sitting in that cop car thinking, how the hell did I get here? I go from the starting quarterback of the Cardinals in the NFL, sitting in the back of a police car 5 years later. Never thought it would ever happen to me. But addiction doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care how much money you make. If you play in the NFL, if you own your own business, it'll come for you, man. And if you're not careful, it'll take your life over like it did mine. And it's a scary, scary place to be. It's you feel hopeless, you feel alone, and it's a dark place. I don't know how else to explain it if you haven't been through it, but it takes your life. It takes your soul. It makes you a different person.
And I mean, I don't know that I want to dive too deeply into the dark place, but just so people listening can recognize it in somebody else. Can you tell us about like the day-to-day of what that dark place was like, especially you're home with kids, and then were you on the street looking for drugs, basically?
Wherever I could get it. Yeah. Everything from dealing with cartel to old 80-year-old women who get prescribed it, that don't have any money, that are looking to sell it. I mean, there's so many different avenues to get it. And, so I had different guys all over the place that I would get it from. And I spent a ton of money buying this stuff. I was in the NFL, I had money, and I was just spending it like crazy, buying whatever I could find. And every day was either using or chasing it. And sitting in parking lots for hours, waiting for a drug dealer to show up, lying to my wife about where I was. It was just chaos. I felt like I was a dump truck full of shit. Can I say shit on here?
You can, yes.
And everywhere I go, I'm just spewing crap everywhere. I'm a wreck. And I'm living 100 miles an hour, and I'm dealing with people that are super shady. And I entered into this world that no person should be. And that's why I just I became a completely no confidence, dark person, because all I cared about was my addiction and feeding that addiction. Here's the other thing you got to realize about opiates. Opiates are a little different because you become physically dependent on it. It gets to the point to where you're doing it, yes, to get high, but you're also doing it to avoid being dope sick. And dope sick, if you can imagine the worst flu you've ever had, times it by 10. You're shaking, you're quivering, there's hot and cold, your skin's crawling, your eyes hurt, your fingers hurt, you get swollen, you hallucinate, you're depressed, you can't sleep. You're throwing up. It's terrible. So, I can't tell you how many times I locked myself in my bedroom and said, I'm going to gut this out. I'm tough. I'm a football player. I got grit. I'm going to tough this thing out. Usually about a day and a half, 2 days into it, I'm like, bump this bull piss. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I can't do this. And that's important because it's 99% of people can't do it on their own. You can't grit it out. I feel like I'm as mentally tough as they come. I couldn't do it. So it wasn't until I had a team around me to help me that I was able to, finally get sober, because I just couldn't do it on my own. And I didn't care what I had to do to feed my addiction. It just went on and on.
What were those hours like in the aftermath of sitting in the cop car and realizing the arrest and what was to come after that?
Oh, that's deep, man. So I was arrested on a Saturday morning. Monday was a holiday, and it hit the press Tuesday. And I remember I was actually at Gilbert. We had practice, and it hit the news, and I just left. I just took off. And I ended up in a parking lot somewhere. And I remember sitting down on a curb in this parking lot. It was of a store, like a Safeway or something. And that's when the first thought of suicide came into my head. And luckily my mom called, and I happened to answer it. I wasn't answering any phone calls, but I answered my mom's, and she's like, "Where are you at? I'll come get you." So she picked me up and took me over to my parents' house. And then we called some people over, and I remember sitting there with these people, my parents, Kenzie, her parents, my Uncle Danny was there. I had a group of people, and they said, "Okay, let's figure out what we're going to do." So we were researching different places where I should go. This is what's pretty cool is during this time, I turned my phone off because I couldn't handle the texts and the calls and everything. I shut my phone off. The next day, I turn my phone on, and like 5 seconds after I turn my phone on, I get a call. And the call is from my quarterback coach at BYU, Brandon Doman. And he goes, "Hey, we love you. We got you. Don't worry about it." So that night I'm on a plane to Utah, and they got me in a facility in Utah, and I was there for 3 months. But that's what it was like. I didn't know what to do. And it's like, I was just, someone was looking out for me, and Coach Doman called me, and I had Chad Lewis call me up, and Ben Cahoon, like all these guys. I had a lot of coaches come visit me, and I had support. And as that happened, I started realizing maybe there's some hope in this thing. I thought no one was going to want anything to do with me anymore, including my wife. I was like, my wife's out. Like, there's no way. But when she said, "Max, I love you. We're going to fight." And I had coaches and parents and friends, "Hey, let's fight. We're with you." I started getting a little bit of hope, and was able to change my mindset a little bit. But it's gut wrenching when I think back to that time and the state of mind that I was in. It's not fun to talk about, but it is what it is, and I had to go through it to get to where I'm at.
Well, and we appreciate you sharing for sure, because I know you can hear how much you want to share it, but also the pain that's still there. But I think it's just important, because you're not the only person who's gone through this, and you're not the only person who's been on a football field and things haven't gone your way, and you're like, where do you go? So how much now are you taking what you've been through, sharing it with people? And I guess, why did you choose to go back to football and coach to get that message out?
I mean, remember how I said, like, when I burned the ships, did I talk about that? So my biggest thing, the first thing you have to do in order to get sober, you got to burn the ships. And what that means is, when you burn the ships, there's no going back. There's that story of that. I can't remember the names and stuff, but they sailed across the ocean to go to battle somewhere in like Mexico or South America. And the leader said, "Hey, go burn the boats." And they're like, "What?" He's like, "We're not turning back. We're going to war, and we either die or we win. That's it." And when I got to that point, that changed everything for me, and things started opening up. So I started doing some quarterback training. And one of the kids I was training was the quarterback here at ALA Queen Creek. And his dad was the head coach and the AD at the school, Rich Edwards. And I'm training him, and I got nothing going on. And I'm like, "Can I come watch practice?" So I show up to their practice, and I'm kind of hiding, I don't want anybody to see me. And Coach Edwards notices me, and he comes walking over, and he follows BYU and recognized who I was, and just came up, started talking to me, asking me what I was doing. He goes, "Hey, what do you think about helping me coach? We need an offensive coordinator." And I remember looking at him, and I'm like, "Really? Like, you would do that for me? Like, you would trust me enough and bring me in and do that?" Like, it blew my mind. And I'm like, I would love to do this. Like, this gives me a chance to be around the game again, and to be around, the kids were awesome. So I said, "Yeah, I'm in." And coaching high school football saved my life, because it gave me a new passion. It gave me something to be invested in, and gave me a chance to be a mentor. And man, it was so good for me. And I want to coach high school football as long as I can, man. I just absolutely love it. And I'm surrounded by great people here, and it's just been a huge blessing.
And are you as vulnerable and open with your players? I mean, how far do you go, and how long did it take you to share your story with them?
I've shared it. I usually share my story like every 3 or 4 years, because I don't want the same guys hearing the same story every year. I've gone in more depth with some of the players who've had their struggles. And this is what's cool about it. If you need help, are you more prone to talk to the guy who's never been through it, or the guy who's been through it and has come out on the other side? So when they look at me, they know I'm coming from a true, genuine place, and a place of non-judgment, because I've been there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not judging you, but let me help you. And you get people to open up because they feel more comfortable. And I feel like I have this skill set to be able to do that. And, everything that I've been through can't go to waste. You know what I mean? I have to use that, and use this talent and this experience that I have to help other people, because maybe they don't have to go as far as I did. Maybe we can get them help sooner and get them back on their feet. So, I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do now. But yeah, sometimes these kids come to me and they got stuff going on or stories, and I kind of chuckle and I'm like, dude, you're going to be fine. Just let me help you.
You have an event coming up. Tell us a little bit about what you're planning on doing, how you're how you're planning on setting things up and telling your story and trying to reach people.
Mind if I go through a few things right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So this is how it started. People need to understand this. I went on a podcast with a guy named Brock Bevel, and he has a podcast called Chasing the Base. And it was one of those things where he was bugging me on social media, and I didn't want to do it because I was still kind of reserved. And I finally said, okay, let's go. After a week after we did the podcast, he calls me up and he's like, Max, we have to do our own podcast. And I'm like, no, not a podcast guy. I'm not doing that. No. He's like, come on, brother. And I kind of was at a point in my life where I was like, I need to start getting out there. I need to start being uncomfortable. And so I was like, all right, let's go. So we got another guy, Blue Robinson, who's in Utah. He runs his own addict to athlete program up there. And we said, let's go. And we get on there and it is raw. It's real. Sometimes we jump on and we're like, what should we talk about? Like it's not scripted. It is like, okay, we're going to talk about depression today. Let's go. And we've gained a lot of traction with it. So the podcast is called Agents of Recovery. Find it on most platforms. After a year and a half of doing that, Brock calls me up again. He's like, Max, we got to take this to the next level. And I go, okay, what does that look like? He goes, I want to open up our own recovery center. And I was like, whoa, really? He goes, yes, I ran one in Show Low for 5 years. I want to bring it down to the Valley. I'm like, okay. So we talked about it more. We got into it. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. So we just got licensed and we're getting ready to open the doors in a few weeks. We have our own recovery center called Victory Recovery. It is not an inpatient center. So we have no beds. We have no medication. It is purely counseling, therapy, and you can consider it more like aftercare. So you go to a 30-day rehab, come to us afterwards. We got your aftercare. We're going to take care of you. You can be with us as long as you want because we understand that it's connection and it's community and having a team around you makes your chances of staying sober go way up. And we want to give that to other people. Just like I had a team and I was given a second chance. Not everybody out there has parents and coaches and friends that are willing to do that for them. I was lucky. I was blessed. So I want to do that for other people. That's what me and Brock want to do. So we're opening up this counseling center, and to kind of get us going, we're doing an event, right? And we're teaming up with it's called Connection is the Cure. And what they do is they go around and they do concerts and events, and they raise awareness and try to bring communities together. So we teamed up with them, and we're doing one of these events Thursday night at the Mesa Arts Center. So it's going to be at 6:30, and it's a free event. We are not charging people to come to this event. We are accepting donations if people want to donate to the cause, and the donations go towards sponsoring those who need it to get help, right? And so Brock has done a fantastic job of putting this event together. Victory Recovery is sponsoring it. And we just want to bring people together, connect them, and let people know if you or someone you love is suffering, here's some resources. Here's what you can do. Let us help you. And because a lot of people don't know what to do or where to go. And we want it to be, hey, if you're struggling, send him to Max, send him to Brock. Let them take care of you. Get in their program because our program is unique and, in my opinion, the best program out there. 12 Steps is awesome, and we use a lot of the principles from 12 Steps, but it's outdated. It's old. And we've have new curriculum that works. And we know it works because it's been tried out on different people, and they are doing fantastic. So we are really excited about what we can bring and help others. So this event is just to get us out there and let people know we're here to help. And you have resources and you have people available to you, and, have some fun. We're going to have some bands there, and then we're going to play music. And Ben Fuller's kind of the main musician, and he has suffered through addiction and he's in recovery. So he's going to tell a little bit about his story. I'm going to speak, Brock will speak. Just want to have a fun night and let people know there are people out here willing to help. And those people that are willing to help, I'm going to call on you. Whether it's through a donation or maybe you own a pest control company and I got a guy I'm working with who needs a job. Can he go sell pest control for you? And bring people together so that we have this community of outreach. And that's our vision. That's our goal. And we're really excited about it, man. And I'm looking forward to really digging in and helping some people through the same struggles that I had.
Are even Utah fans welcome?
Yes, if they wear a blue shirt, they can come in. No, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something really cool here. You know, obviously my comments about Utah after the Utah game are viral, and you can look them up, and I hate Utah and all that stuff, which in the moment I meant, because I went through a whole year of ridicule after the game my junior year because I threw 5 picks. We got our butts kicked, right? Next year, I had to listen to that for a whole year. Honk if you've intercepted Max Hall. BYU fans coming up to me, hey, you know we wear blue jerseys, right? Arby's restaurant said Max Hall apple turnovers on it. You know what I mean? It was just like I couldn't get away from it. It was driving me crazy. So I said, you know what? This year it's on. And I dedicated myself and I worked hard. So when we won that game, it all just came out. It all just spewed out of me. And it's funny now. And when people wear shirts that say I hate or Max Hall hates me, Utah shirts and stuff like that, I think it's hilarious. Like I take pictures with them and I'm like, but look, I went back to a BYU game last year and it was the BYU Utah game. And I didn't know how I was going to be received because it was really the first time back in the public eye of BYU and Utah fans. I was blown away. BYU fans, Utah fans, it didn't matter. All of them were cheering, wanting to shake my hand, take pictures. It was surreal to me, man. I was like, this is amazing. Because I think for the most part, people out there realize that there's things in life bigger than football, bigger than BYU and Utah, bigger than ASU and U of A, you know? And this is a cause that no matter what color you wear, you can stand behind because everybody is affected by this. You are, or either you know somebody who is. And so, yes, Utah fans are welcome, man. This has no discrimination. I don't care who you are or where you're from. If you need help, we're going to give it to you.
And you look at the game of football and all that it's, I guess, given you, but also taken away and put you through. As you look at that and look back on this decision to play football and the decision to try to be the best you could be and get to the NFL, go back to the talking to the 10, 12-year-old you. Would you do it all again? Would you go play football?
In a heartbeat. I wish I could go and do it all again. I wish I could go back to 12-year-old me and get to do the whole thing over again. I had a blast playing football. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And those lessons I learned in football came through later in life. And even though I got injuries and my back's all messed up and, shoulder, and I got all this stuff, I would do it again. Absolutely, man. I just love the game of football and I have a passion for it, whether that's playing or coaching. So it's a big part of who I am for sure. I can't let that go.
Do you worry about the head injuries at all? Yeah,
I do. And, I've suffered a ton of concussions, some documented, some not. And, some things happen to me sometimes and I'm like, oh, it's just the concussions. Don't worry about it. I haven't had anything really bad yet, but I'm a little nervous that in the next few years, something might come up. And I'm planning on maybe if that stuff comes up, getting some brain scans and seeing what I can do to help it. But I just played in an age of football that didn't have concussion protocols. And it was the whole, you get dinged, you smell some salt and you go back in. And that's why a lot of us have issues afterwards. I came out pretty healthy and lucky though. I feel pretty good. And hopefully nothing in the head changes in the next 10 years or so.
How do you kind of approach it on a Friday night in the sidelines with the will to win and trying to push your team to be the best they can be? And I mean, gosh, what you guys have built out there in Queen Creek has been super impressive. But with also knowing everything and putting the game of football into perspective.
I tell you what, there's nothing like Friday night. There's nothing like it, man. I mean, college football is awesome in the stadiums. Obviously, the NFL is sweet, but there's something pure about high school football, and the community being there and seeing a kid struggle and then have success. I get more animated as a coach than I think I did as a player. More excited. Like if I threw a touchdown pass and the crowd goes wild, yeah, that's cool. I go chest bump somebody and we go to the sideline. But when you work with a kid every day, year round, and you're coaching them and teaching them and mentoring them, and then you see them put it together and go execute on a Friday night. The joy is unlike, it's way better than what I did as a player. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. So we've built a great program. I mean, when I first got here, we barely had put a track in. We had no visiting bleachers. We built our own weight room. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's been fun to see it grow. And now we were in the Open last year. We lost to Hamilton.
That was a bold move. We all thought, oh man, they're going for it. What went into that decision? To go for it like that, just to try to go for it and try to play Hamilton. I mean, we saw you guys kind of, we thought it was, maybe a year early. I know that you had to qualify and everything like that, but there was, there's a lot of teams that don't want to go into the Open division.
This is how I put it, because honestly, our team was split. Parents were split because we really felt like if we'd have stayed in 4A and went and competed for the 4A state championship, we'd have won it. We didn't think there was a team that could beat us other than maybe Cactus, but Cactus went to the Open, right? We thought we were going to get to play Cactus in the 4A state championship. Both of us go to the Open. So parents are back and forth. And I said, you know what? I sat the kids down and I go, let me ask you something. Would you rather go play in the Poinsettia Bowl or go play in the college football playoff? What do you want to do? Me, I want to go play in the college football playoff. I want to go compete for a national championship. Why aren't we going to go compete for a true state championship? I don't care who we play. Doesn't matter who we play. We're going to go give it everything we got. And we're going to go down swinging and feel good about it at the end of the day. And we did. We lost, but we went down swinging, and coaches, players, everybody, man, we were just so happy that we were there and had a chance to compete. Hamilton had a dang good football team last year. Dang good football team. But for it to be 14-7 at half, I think we turned a lot of heads, and even Hamilton was like, holy cow, this isn't the team we thought we were playing. And a lot of credit goes to our kids and their hard work. We have a great coaching staff. I mean, we prepare our kids really well. Having Ty Detmer on as the head coach now with so much knowledge and not only running a program, but just in the game of football, we have something special here, we think. And people are starting to see that. Our freshman class last year and our incoming freshman class this year were doubled in size.
Wow.
People want to be a part of what we're doing. So moving to 5A is exciting. There's not a team on our schedule where I'm like, we're going to blow them out. Every week is going to be a battle. And I love that. That's what it's all about. And so good things are happening here at ALA Queen Creek, and we're excited to be where we're at.
How much has Arizona high school football grown since your days at Mountain View?
Crazy. Well, I mean, when I was in high school, having a speed and agility coach or a private quarterback coach or anything like that, it didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? It was like we played football, and then we went and played basketball, and then we ran track, and then we had some summer lifting, and then we played football again. Like, there was nothing year round. Now it's year round. Everybody's got a personal coach or a trainer, and they're working on their skill set year round. So I think the talent in Arizona is rising because of that. And you're seeing a lot of skill come out of the state of Arizona, and more kids getting recruited out of the state of Arizona. And then you got our top teams like the Chandlers and Hamiltons and Saguaros and the ALA Queen Creeks, competing with, you saw Hamilton, you've seen Chandler get to go play IMG Academy. You can see that some of our teams in Arizona can compete with anybody in the nation. And I don't think we're like a state powerhouse like a Texas yet, but it's definitely on the rise. And when you look at some of these teams and players, they're impressive.
Two more things, and we'll let you get out of here. Just as we're kind of going down, what would I want to ask Max Hall if I had some time with him? College football, the state of it right now. Where do your BYU Cougars end up, and what conference, and what does college football look like in 4 or 5 years?
College football is unpredictable right now, man. It just is, with this transfer portal thing and then the NIL stuff and all that. Now kids are going to a college where they can make the most money. But also colleges, if they need 3 running backs, they're going to go grab 2 out of the transfer portal and maybe 1 high school kid. So it hurts the high school kids because not as many of them are getting recruited and getting scholarships because college, I mean, obviously the college has got to look out for them and the coaches' jobs are on the line. They'd rather go get a kid who's played a few years in college and they know can play the college game rather than maybe taking a risk on a high school kid. And so guys are transferring, guys are transferring schools, even from big D1 schools to another school because the other school can pay them more.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, I don't know where it's going to go. We'll see. But if we're going to go back to talking about just BYU, they're going to end up in the Big 12 in a few years, right? And they got a great schedule this year. I think they got a great quarterback in Jaron Hall. They got some solid receivers. They're going to have to be good up front. They're going to have to fix up front a little bit. But I think Cougar Nation's excited about what we can bring. And if we stay healthy and hungry, we should be okay. We should win some games.
And are
Maybe
you
a few in there?
Are you able to watch your other former team, the Arizona Cardinals, from time to time? And what do you think of Kyler Murray and the team going forward this year? How do you like the Cardinals' chances?
I think, I'll watch the Cardinals all the time, and there's still some guys on the team that I played with and are there. And, obviously I've always loved Larry and watching him, and I've loved watching Kyler Murray. I think he's a fantastic player. He's exciting. He's got all the talent in the world, right? And I just think he needs to continue to learn the game and figure out where he fits in the NFL style game, which he will, and I know Larry has been praising Kyler big time lately, and I've seen some of that. So yeah, man, I'll always be a Cardinals fan. Did I think I got dealt a poor hand when I was there? Yeah, I do. But they're still the hometown team, and I love watching them. We'll always support the Cardinals for sure.
Last question for you. You and is Danny White your uncle? Is that right?
Yeah, he's my uncle.
Okay, so all time, I guess you're his Westwood team, your Mountain View team. Who wins and why?
It's not even close, man. Give me a break. First of all, my Mountain View team has a way better quarterback for sure. Okay. Second of all,
what about your punter though?
What?
What about your punter? Were you the punter?
Danny can have the punter. All right, he can be the best punter on the field. Okay, for sure. But it's debatable on whether he's the best QB on the field. All right. So that team that Danny played on was special. That was a good team. But the team we had my junior year was one of the best teams that Arizona has ever seen. No one came close to us that year, and the talent that we had was stupid. How that would translate to today's game, I don't know. We didn't run RPO. We didn't run the spread. You know what I mean? It's just different. But I know the type of guys that we had were tough. They were mean. They knock your head off. And we had talent. So, yeah, tell Danny that we would have whooped his butt, man. No question about that.
Well, this has been this conversation has blessed me, man. I appreciate your time, your candor. Love to do it again. Love to hear anything you have to say. And we'd like to get a camera out there on Thursday and just highlight what you're doing in the community because it's great.
That would be fantastic if you guys show up Thursday. You want interviews. We want as many people there as we can. So if you're listening to this, come support us, whether you're an addict or not, if you just want to learn more about it, be there, be part of the community. And, this is where I grew up. This is where Brock grew up. We care about this community, and this is a passion of ours. So we're really excited to get out there and to start helping people. So I appreciate guys like you who are willing to support the cause and have me on here and talk about it. The more we can do that, I think the more people we can help.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.